Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now these are the points. That is the role of intermediaries in e-marketplace. Now traditionally, if you see, these intermediaries, the role of intermediaries, it's played by a distributor, a dealer, or retailer, or a wholesaler in our traditional business. Okay. So here, in case of e-marketplace, merchant solutions, electronic catalogs, search engines, shopping carts, auctions, and reverse auctions. If you want, you can write it down or note it down also somewhere. So these are the intermediaries. Now these are the options available for the manufacturers when you take into consideration the digital platforms. Now if you see the first intermediary, now here we can say a linking bridge between a manufacturer and the customer. Okay, these are the building bridges. Since we don't have the physical entity here who can interact with the customers directly, so in case of e-marketplace, these digital intermediaries will play a role of retailer, dealer, which we used to have in our traditional uh, business. Now if you see the first one, the merchant solutions, they work as an intermediary between the organization and the end customer or the person. Now here, who are these basically? You have purchased online, many of you, isn't it? Now what you usually do, here the interface is maybe you browse through your laptop, your mobile, your tab. You try to just browse for a specific product or just window shopping. If you like, you like any product, you just click on it to have a glimpse of that product, the features, the more information you would like to seek. Suppose you got something, or maybe whatever is required, there is something which attracts you on the internet, whatever information is being provided by the manufacturer is worth notable, and you shop it, okay, through this online digital mode. So here the next step is to pay the payment. So here the payment processors, that is what we say, we call it the term as the merchant solutions here in this case. So customers or merchants are businesses that accept uh, credit card payments from the customers or those who purchase through online mode. They work as a bridge between a bank or credit card organizations and the customers. They receive the funds on the behalf of the organization or the business provider or the solution provider in case of services. So here a merchant represents a person or the company that sells the goods or services. Here it may be a party, that is a third party which have been given the responsibility for dealing with the clients or the customers. So in the digital platform, you will find that because of the online shopping popularity, the authenticity plays a very important role. The credibility plays a very important role. And the company cannot take the onus of each and everything, selling the product, uh, delivering the product to the end customer, at the same time payments also. So managing becomes a bit difficult, and hence you have a intermediary who comes up with this easy electronic mode of transactions. Now here it is possible in case of B2B business also and B2C business also. So here they are demarketing both the aspects, that is B2B and B2C. So this is about the first interface, that is the merchant solutions. Then we go on to the e-catalogs. Now, what are these e-catalogs? Now, e-catalogs is one of the very prime and important part of digital marketing. These are digital prints or digital visual aids which help the manufacturer to showcase the product to the end customer. So here, an electronic catalog is a resource which provides the information about the products and the services. It contains all the information about the product, maybe the contents, the features, the usage, instructions, everything in the printed catalog form, that is in the e-print form, digital form. Because an electronic catalog is based on standards, the data structure is familiar, enabling the customers to interpret the data in a very meaningful way. Electronic catalogs or e-catalogs are comprehensive. They are pre-tested and they clearly define the information which would be helpful to the end customers. Now, the manufacturers should plan. In the first step, they should plan what all is to be placed here. That is, what all should be included in the e-catalog should be decided, pre-decided. How much of the text you would be including? What would be the images you would be including? The manufacturer would be including. Whether you want to advertise it, maybe just on the basis of features, or you want to have a poster or an image of brand ambassador, or you want to give the reviews of those who have used the product. It depends upon the individual manufacturer. It defines the very purpose of catalog's existence, to present products in a very attractive way. so that the customer should at least uh, click the links, at least browse your website. Here, one more very important thing, how you are going to group the products. The manufacturer is going to group the products is also very important. The aesthetic value. Now here aesthetic value means if you have some photographs, if you have some images which are very catchy, how attractive you make your page, web page, and how ease is the accessibility. These are very important things here. Now here, if you think of including the text, if more of the text is there, maybe many a times people, they don't want to read much of the text. They just want to gain the information just by informal communication. That is what you are showing rather than what is written. Well, there may be critics who would like to read what you have written. So if something is related to information technology, then you may hire a copywriter, because the text information should be presented in a desired format. Next thing is, how do you design the catalog? In smaller companies, you may have separate teams. Okay, but in uh, large industries or big manufacturers, they may have their own inbuilt digital team who would take care of this. What would be the basic elements here when you think of standardizing the website? So here, if you have a bundle of products to be offered to the customers, then one should include the product name, the image of the product, features which you want to highlight. There should be specifications as far as size is considered, the delivery information is considered, the documentation is considered. Suppose if some of the products are accredited by institutes, so in that case, it gives an added advantage to market those products. If technical product is there, then technical information, whether you want to highlight the benefits of the product, the pricing of the product. So here, how you're going to make the shopping easy for the customers is the objective. The more convenient and easier the shopping would be, more would be the customer attracted towards your website or web page. Now here, whenever you think of designing, one should keep in mind into their minds the segmentation part. Who would be your segment? That is the first thing. Second thing, how many pages you would like to involve. If you take into consideration more information, then it would be very cluttery. Try to avoid clutters here. Very shabby images should be avoided here. Now, when you think of images, see to it that you do not violate emotions of people. Now, again, you may have the super digital catalog also for special products. Special products in the sense, maybe the benefit would be technicalities, or the, if you think of specialized product categories, then in that case, apart from images, you need to have the content. If you have medical equipments, if you have automobiles, then in that case, people would like to know the technological advances, the details of technology which is into that product, which goes into that product, or electronic goods. In that case, the purchaser would like to browse the web pages which contains the information. Suppose there itself you provide the link, the customer would just click on the link, and maybe the information is very handy. They come to know what are the different models available, what are the sizes available, colors available, pricing strategy, very important, because price is main determinant factor while purchasing. Again, once you decide with the designing, you have to choose the e-catalog software. So here, your website should be integrated with those of the e-catalog softwares also. So again, you will have to contact a catalog maker who would again reframe it from his perspective, since he is a technical person. Now, some of the leading e-catalog services on digital markets are like FlipSnack, Issue, Flipping Book, Jumang, Yempu, etc. So here it depends upon the individual manufacturer or the service provider, how they design and define the pros and cons here, where to add the links in this electronic catalog. Uh, Within a single click, do you want to place all the information? You want to give ready information to the customers, or you want to browse from one page to other page to the third page? It depends upon the individual seller. Now here many a times the links are directly designed, maybe in the PDF format as hyperlinks and all, or directly when you just click the button, you directly go to the product portfolio. That is also the possibility. Now the next is to publish and distribute. When you publish your e-catalog online, make sure that it is very catchy as far as the public is considered, so that easily anybody can browse. Now this takes us to the next important point, that is search engine optimization. So this is the next point. Now, you might be familiar with what the search engines are, many of you, isn't it? What they do? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
I cannot hear clearly. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Ankur. You were saying something, I think.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. So you might be using a lot of search engines in your everyday life. Say, for example, you might be using Google, YouTube, Amazon, a lot of different search engines, isn't it? To just search the information. Now here, Google basically has the biggest share in the market. Almost 75% of all the searches happen on Google. It is followed by Bing, which is almost 8 to 9% of searches, where Baidu is basically a search engine that you will find in China. It also has significantly 7 to 8% share. And you have Yahoo, which is basically captures around 6% share in the global search market. This is this is considered in one of the studies. Okay. So why these search engines are important? Search engines are extremely important because of one very important specific reason. You get hold of the customer right at the time when the customer is searching for a product or searching for a requirement, and that is why search engines are very critical in digital marketing ecospace. It is known that almost 60% of customers out there start their purchase process from a search engine. Whether it happens in your case, that suppose you want to purchase something, you start with the search engine. You wanted a new mobile phone, you might be going to Google and try to search for mobile phones or specific type of products or specific model of mobile phone. Or else you might be going to Amazon and searching for a mobile phone for any product that you want. If you are thinking about going to a tourist destination, okay, if you are thinking about going on a holiday with your family, you might think about going to Google and searching for things to do in such a location. You might be searching for hotels in such a location on the search engine, isn't it? It becomes very handy for us. We just browse on the search engines, and within a click we get most of the information. So we say search engines become extremely important, extremely relevant in this digital marketing ecosystem or the digital marketing space. When you go to Google, for example, or when you go to any search engine, let's take an example of a Google here. When you are going to give a search term or a keyword, you basically are getting a result page, which is generally known as search engine result page, that is SERP. It has basically different components for the viewers, for those who are browsing it. You might be aware of these things. When you search for something, the first links that you get are paid advertisements. This is generally known as search engine marketing, where advertisements are shown in the first couple of links. Then you have a set of links which basically are not advertisements. They are generally known as organic links or organic links based on search engine optimization techniques that are out there. And on the site, you might find something that is knowledge graph. You might find something that is Google My Business application. You might have another application like the map or the information, addresses to the organization, etc. All provided on the search page. In some cases, you will see that towards the bottom of the search result page, you will also have some advertisements. If we take the entire search result page or entire output that a search engine provides to you, you will have organic search engines or organic SEO, which is the phrase used to describe processes to obtain a natural placements on the organic search engine result page. If probably you are not very high on the search results, automatically you don't come out to be the best person out there. There you might be able to pay a certain amount of money to Google and provide an advertisement there. So that is where we call it as search engine marketing, which is a process of gaining traffic by purchasing ads on search engines. It is also in many times called the PPC or pay per click advertisement. Now, how does this search engine work? How does Google know which pages to show you? Any idea? There is a saying that Google knows everything. Google Baba ko pucho. Is that true?
I think, ma'am, it depends on our search, what frequently we check.
Yeah. Now here, Google uses an algorithm. Google uses a process by which it comes out with these search results and gives you the best websites that are out there. Now, the best way of understanding how Google works, or to use an analogy, it will be good if you think of going to a library. Okay. What do you do to find a book in the library? You will see that there are numerous collection of books. There are books on different number of subjects. There are a lot of books in the library. Probably the number of books in the big library might overwhelm anybody. So in many cases, when you go to library, you might go to the librarian, isn't it? And you might ask the librarian where to find books in the library. So Google does something very similar. Not exactly like what library does, but it's easy to understand from the context of a library. So if, for example, you want to read something on physics or chemistry, you might go to the librarian and ask librarian to help you with books or maybe some novels, okay, on those subjects. Now the input to the librarian's mind is very important in this term. When you say it's physics, he will take into his consideration physics. When you say it's a novel, particular author, Then you will mention a particular author to the librarian. So now, based on this term, the librarian will show you the books are available on such and such shelf. Okay. So here, the books are organized in certain format. The layout is fixed. Okay. For the library is now going to go to the shelf, pick these books and bring these books to you and give it to you. If you have a really nice library, okay. So in many cases, he will just show you the shelf where it is kept. Now, how does this librarian know the sequencing of the books? There are ways in which the librarian has organized the entire bookshelves. You might have observed this, that they have written the shelf A, B, C, D. They might have named it with respect to different departments, with respect to different specializations. The books are organized. So similarly, and you find whatever you wanted, isn't it? So similarly, Google uses the keyword that you are going to provide. You go to Google and talk about physics, you will get it. You talk about an automobile, you will get it. So Google is going to go there in this algorithm and look for websites that match this keyword that you have provided and give you the best websites. Google goes in a sequential pattern. There are 5 things that Google does. Okay. It does crawling web. It does indexing. It does processing. It calculates relevancy and it retrieves all the results. Google or any other search engine is only going to be worthwhile, popular, and interesting to customers if the search results are going to be extremely relevant. Many a times you might have seen, suppose you type a keyword, you enter into it, and you don't get whatever is required, you just leave the page. Like the librarian's index, Google will create an index, and at times it will start processing this index to identify when you give a keyword. Google will create an index and start identifying it, which is the website based on that indexing that it has done is the most relevant, and it will give you an order in a ranked order. The first most relevant website, the second relevant, the third relevant, and so on. All of these things are done by Google algorithm. It starts with web crawling, where the crawler is going to, or the spider as they call it, is going to keep looking into different website, different parts of the website, different ways in which the content is provided to create an index of what is there in the website. So there are different elements that are extremely important to these search engines. One of the element is the keyword that a person is providing on these websites. The website structure and the sitemap are also important. You might have seen these sitemaps in many websites. Towards the bottom of the page, you will see there is a small link called sitemap. You click on it and you get a structure of how the web page is designed. So structure and sitemaps are extremely important. There are different browsers out there. I'm talking about internet browsers. You have Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Mozilla, Firefox, Opera, and lot very different, lot many different. Okay. And also there are people who are browsing from desktop, maybe from mobile phone or from a tablet at different locations. Also, they might be operating systems on the different interfaces also. Maybe Windows desktop user, Apple desktop user, Android based mobile phone. So one cannot predict how and where the customer will look for the options. Now this here one very important thing for the manufacturers is that it should engage the customer to these search pages. When the customer is browsing these pages, um, They should feel that your web page is very credible. Customer might find that you are somebody who has a lot of reputation. So increase in reputation is also very important. And because many of these customers will be going to the first link, second link, etc., and most of the top links in the first page, you generally tend to have market leadership and a competitive advantage from all of this. Customers also compare the web pages. So increased conversations, organic click-through rates, increased engagement, better reputation, market leadership, and competitive advantage. All of these elements that you get from doing search engine optimization and don't necessarily have to pay anybody a lot of money. Okay, here for each customer who is coming to your page. So all of these things are reasons why you have to do search engine optimization. This is one of the very important thing about this search engine. Now we go on to the next part, that is shopping carts. Now, basically a shopping cart is a software that keeps record of products a buyer has picked from the online store. Now, whenever you enter any shopping mall or a retail outlet, what do you do? Basically, suppose you enter Big Bazaar, DMart, what do? You pick up the carts or trolleys which are placed because you want to bundle them. Okay, you want to place the items or products into it. So similarly here also, in case of e-commerce shopping, cart enables the customers to select the product, weave them. Once they select, once they review it, they can make modifications, they can add some items if they need it. Once they have purchased, if they want to omit certain items, they feel that I don't need this product right now, they may omit it. So here there are many options given to the customers while purchasing on this e-platform. Now here there may be a hosted shopping carts or self-hosted shopping carts. Now hosted are the one, they are off-the-shelf solutions managed by the company who created them. What this means is that you all need to do set up your store is to sign up with the chosen host and you are good to go in this case. While in case of self-hosted shopping carts, 100% customizable shopping is done. Shopping solutions are available. You can download the software and you can run it all by yourself here. Now, many a times, here it has three aspects, like it stores the product information. It's a gateway for order, catalog, and customer management. It stores the information about the user, about their preferences, into what category the customer is in. So here you get to know the CRM part or the data management part of the customers, so that in future you come to know into which category or each field the customer is interested into to shop. Many times there is a shopping cart abandonment also. That is, maybe customers choose the add the items, but they cannot process the order, or maybe they don't do it purposefully. Now this is one of the biggest hurdle in this. Now how do you tackle this? Suppose if I feel that the cost, okay, so and so was my budget and now it is moving ahead, then in that case, maybe I will abandon some of the products. That is the possibility. If the process is too long and complicated, I don't want, I'm not interested. That does happen. Or maybe the merchant doesn't show the total order cost upfront. There may be some technical problems. The consumer's credit card is declined. The consumer finds a better deal on the competitor's website. Customer is just only browsing, window shopping. Okay, it's not necessary that customer is browsing or he's doing the window shopping. It does not mean that the customer should purchase the product. So here, even though the customers, they abandon the product for the time being, the records are maintained with the companies, and they may think of using these records for future deals, for future transactions. And they would like to understand why a customer has abandoned the products. The integration of the shopping carts with the e-commerce system is one of the important aspects here. Now, what are the benefits of it? Maybe you can access your website anytime, 24/7. You have the easy payment options, easy payment gateways through your debit cards or credit cards. Through promotional offers, the customer can bank upon the promotional offers, like you have the discount coupons, you have some discounts on the rates, you have extra gifts from the company, free doorstep delivery of the products. Maybe in some companies they ask you to suggest one or two customers wherein you would like to spread the word of mouth publicity. So here it depends upon the end customers, what exactly the customer is looking for. Now the next part is auctions. Now these auctions are basically the price discovery mechanisms. You can say a brokerage model. Auction also and reverse auction also. So basically there are single auctions and double auctions. You have English auction, which is one of the most common auction formats. It is also known as open outcry auction or the ascending price auction. Basically, frequently they are used for selling the goods, physical goods or products which do not have a limited lifetime. That is, you can say the durable items. The auctioneer starts off the auction with the lowest acceptable price. He then receives bids from the bidders until the point from which there is no raise in the bid. At that point, the auctioneer knocks down the item, which indicates that the highest bidder will receive the item in exchange for the sum of money he bids for. Now, this may happen when the auctioneer is uncertain about the price expectation of the bidders and when he wishes the bidders to totally set the price level. Now, the bidders are often anonymous, especially if the bidding occurs through electronic means. Now, this is done to safeguard the identity of the bidders. A well-known bidder may increase the price expectation of the product just because a person knows it to him has entered a bid. He may be his business rival also. Therefore, this kind of bidding will not be beneficial for the bidders. Now here, as we have seen in the traditional or physical auction, the auctioneer can highly influence the bidding process with his voice, his gestures, communication, personality. Now this is not possible here in this case. The next is Dutch auction. The Dutch auction, it is known as a descending price auction. The opening price is set extremely high. The price then descends with a predefined amount at predefined time intervals until a buyer claims the product to be his. When many items of the same product are auctioned at the same time, many bidders may claim the product as theirs at different point of time until no more item remains in the bundle. Now this process results in different prices for different bidders. A disposed Dutch auction is often practiced in department stores during the sales season to dispose of excess inventory accumulated over a period of time. Therefore, the discount rate increases, and thus we have time period and a descending price. These are the two main components of the Dutch auction. The next is the first price sealed bid auction. Here, the main characteristics of not being an open cry auction, like English or Dutch auction, and thus individuals' bids are hidden from other bidders. This has a bidding phase in which all the bids are collected and a resolution phase in which all bids are opened, like we have in our traditional method, okay? And the winner is determined. Now, this is also called a discriminatory sealed bid auction, since not all the bidders pay the same price in this case. One more type of auction is Vickrey auction. William Vickrey, the winner of the 1996 Nobel Prize in Economics, developed the Vickrey auction. It is also called by the name as uniformed second price auction, where the bids are sealed and each bidder bids from his own intuition, knowledge ignorant about the other bidders. What is different in this auction format compared to the first price sealed bid auction is that the winning bidder will pay the price of the second highest bid, which is the same as the highest unsuccessful bid. Thus, the winner pays less than what he has bidden. Now, what is the economic rationality behind these auctions? Now, auctions as a mechanism to determine a price identifies auction as a procedure to establish an equilibrium in the marketplace. Now, specifically, these bidding is done, okay, not for the traditional markets or items, but some antique pieces where you find there are the highly fluctuating prices, the stocks, the currencies, the commodities. There, these things are possible. Now, here it is also possible for consumer products, which are difficult to sell through ordinary market channels, like products with limited life or overstock price, like you can say the airplane seats, okay, services, or overstock products which need to be separated from the new incoming products. Suppose if the manufacturer wants to sell off the goods with a very less time frame, you have less time and you have more stocking, or suppose if the competitor is entering with a better product and you want to get rid of the existing stock, in that case they can think of such a option. Now, in case of the electronic auction, one can benefit from the following web related features like common infrastructure with million of potential users are there. So here in this case, you have more reach to the masses. Standardized hypertext protocol for displaying the trade objects, items which are to be auctioned, which increases the feasibility of the electronic auctions. Standardized search functions, which will help the suppliers and the customers to find each other. standards for secure payments, which encourage the suppliers and customers to actually use the web medium for trading. Now here the critical factors which are into it are perishability. What is perishability? When we say the products are very perishable, like the products which cannot be stored too long, they are known as perishable. Or scarcity, where the demand for the product is more and the product is less in quantity. The goods that may be moved electronically and the goods that are geographically constrained. So these are the four critical factors here in this case. Now here the goods have a great possibility of appearing in an electronic formats. In terms of electronic auctions, securities are one of the most promising areas where an electronic auction may occur. Now, when we take the geographically constrained areas, that means the goods have better chances to be part of successful electronic auction. Now, global market for physically constrained goods makes a little sense here, but if you consider the transportation cost, which exceeds the local surge, so electronic auction is a good option in these cases. Now here the last point is the reverse auction. Now here reverse auction is a business model, which here if you take an example of the website, that is Priceline website. It pioneered this unique type of e-commerce known as a demand collection system. Now this system enables consumers to use the internet to save money on a wide range of products and services, while enabling the sellers to generate more revenues. Now, using a simple and propelling consumer proposition like name your price. Okay, here the customer tries to come up with the price. They collect consumer demand, maybe in the form of individual customer offers guaranteed by the credit card for a particular product or a service at the price set by customer, and communicate that demand directly to participating seller and to their private database. The consumers agree to hold their offers open for a specified period of time to enable Priceline.com to fulfill their offers from the inventory provided by participating sellers. The fulfilled offers generally cannot be cancelled by requiring consumers to be flexible with respect to brands, sellers, and product features. They enable sellers to generate incremental revenue without disrupting their existing distribution channels or retail pricing structures here. Now here patent claims have been a key factor in driving this Priceline's remarkable value. It has succeeded in part due to alliances formed with customers, maybe in the airline service industry, automobile industry, hotel reservation, service industry, home financing, adaptive marketing programs through website banner referrals. So referral plays a very important role as far as this reverse auction is considered. Now, alliances formed in the automobile industry are with both new and used car dealers and with rental cars also. Like you have Ford, Nissan. There are a few brands which are available on Priceline.com. Now here the major source of revenues is derived from the areas like, airline ticket reservation services, hotel reservation services, new auto purchasing, home financing. All this will give them the revenue source for these websites, which has adaptive marketing programs with numerous companies. These programs help to facilitate a revenue stream based on referral basis. So the competitive advantage lies in its name, that name your price business model. So it helps to both the consumers and the sellers, who provide a unique platform where demand and supply, both the things they meet. This is fundamentally different from any form of electronic commerce, and it seems to revolutionize the way the people shop for the products. Now you also have a aggregator model here. Like classic wholesalers and retailers of goods and services are increasingly referred to as e-tailers here in this case. Now, if you consider the aggregator models like virtual merchant, you have catalog merchant, you have surf and turf, a brick and mortar establishment with web storefront, you have bit vendors, you have subscription models. So these also form the part of the auctions, reverse auctions. So this is about the role of intermediaries in the electronic e-commerce ecosystem. Okay, which play a very important role in between the manufacturers or the marketers and the end customers. Okay, so this is about the role of intermediaries who bridge the gap in between both these parties and try to meet the supply and demand criteria. Tomorrow we will see the supply chain, how actually the back end and the front end, they play a role in this electronic commerce business. Today we will stop here. Okay, thank you. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.